Yeah, message has come, live streamed.
Yes, Neha, please.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed participants and distinguished panelists, good afternoon. I'm pleased to welcome each of you to this important webinar on heatwave early warning and heat action plans in South Asia. South Asia is one of the most vulnerable countries to the impact of heat waves. There has been a significant rise in the number of heat waves in this region. Heat waves impact not only human health, but also have significant economic impacts. These impacts are unevenly distributed, with poor countries being impacted more. Several proactive efforts have been taken by the respective governments of the countries to enhance the preparedness efforts for heatwave management. This webinar is co-organized by the Integrated Research and Action for Development IRADE, the South Asia Heat Health Information Network Forum SAHHIN, and the South Asian Meteorological Association SAMA, with the support of Asia Pacific Network for Global Change Research APEN and International Sustainable Energy Foundation ISEF. It is a privilege to have with us today an array of subject experts and stakeholders from research institutions, practitioners, and policymakers from the South Asia region countries. Today, we have gathered here to share and deliberate on new knowledge, status, updates for enhancing the effectiveness of early warning systems and heatwave management in the South Asia region. Moving towards the inaugural session, I welcome Professor Jyoti Parikh, Executive Director of IRADE, to share the welcome remarks. Professor Jyoti Parikh was a member of the Prime Minister Council on Climate Change India and is a recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize awarded to IPCC authors in 2007.
Thank you very much, Neha. I'm very happy to welcome this distinguished panel, both the panels and the workshop participants on behalf of IRADE and IRADE's team. As you know, we have a Center for Urban and Climate Resilience Center, which is also Center of Excellence, once awarded by Ministry of Urban Development. But we look at climate change from various perspectives: climate mitigation, climate negotiations, and climate resilience and adaptation. I'm especially happy that to welcome Mr. Tyagi, who has been with us for some time, with Dr. Bhan, and all the distinguished members of SAMA members, as well as I understand there are about 300 participants from various countries here, and together we hope to discuss many important issues of common interest to all of us. IRADE has been engaging in this area where we have developed gender-sensitive ward-level heat action plans. We have also looked at several cities: Delhi, Bhubaneswar, Rajkot, Rajashahini in Bangladesh, Colombo in Sri Lanka, and done work for IDRC Canada, as well as the Ministry of Earth Science. South Asia Heat Health Information Network is something we have also founded, founding member together with accredited by a World Health Organization. IRADE is also working on project on policy intervention for enhancing effectiveness of the heat early warning systems in India. As you all know, early warning can really make a very big difference in terms of saving lives, in terms of saving infrastructure, and essentially we should always aim that every climate hazard does not end up in being a disaster. The hazard becomes disaster only when you are not prepared for it, or when you don't have relevant concerning infrastructure. So one has to continuously build new infrastructure of both services as well as products and facilities, so that people can deal with it on the spot and as soon as possible. I'm especially hopeful that SAMA can get together and do many wonderful things together, because we are all together in one small region with considerable number of population, and that too poor population. They need especially some of these services ahead of time, so as to save themselves. So and together we could come up with many new approaches. I'm going a little bit beyond by the brief of this particular seminar, but I see that more SAMA events need to be organized, and synergy between our methodologies, our approaches, our data sources, and studies together can really lead into a rich menu of options, policy options, and options to deal with the situation. Early warning system always needs to be refined in terms of its content, its reachability, as well as its effectiveness. And that's what our group is trying to do with improving not only in terms of its effectiveness, but at every ward level and and in many types of situations. So I wish all, and I'm very happy that so many people have taken interest in joining this. I congratulate our team for getting them together, and let's hope that what we do here does not end after this seminar, but continues in future with many different colors and hues. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Following her, I invite Professor Ajit Tyagi to set the context for today's discussions. Professor Tyagi is a distinguished meteorologist who is currently the president of South Asia Meteorological Association, SAMA, Indian Meteorological Society, and a senior advisor at IRATE. He has significantly contributed to the field of meteorology, notably introducing numerical weather predictions in the Indian Air Force and implementing the first phase of IMD modernization. Sir, you're muted.
You're on mute, sir. You need to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Neha, for your kind introduction. And I join Jyoti ma'am to welcome all our distinguished panelists and participants. Without sounding alarmist, let me again bring focus the importance of heat wave early warnings and heat wave management, as Professor Parikh has brought out, that we can, by our joint efforts in early warning and heat wave management, can reduce this hazard becoming disasters. We have seen in the past that this can really be a large scale disaster, is observed and happened in Europe in 2003, where more than 70,000 people died because of heat waves. And even our country and the neighboring countries, people have died in thousands, particularly in Pakistan in 2015, where Karachi incident had death toll of 2,000. And in India also, the Odisha, Andhra Pradesh had recorded deaths exceeding thousands of number. Now, if we look at the newspaper reports and otherwise also, the heat, the global warming, whatever you may call, it is becoming a climate crisis. April has been the hottest, April 2024, the hottest month ever recorded. And in fact, the last 11 months have been the hottest months. 2023 was the warmest year. And the trend continues that 2024 will become another warmest year, breaking all earlier records. Already we have crossed the critical limit of 1.5 degrees centigrade. in 2023. It's more than 1.5 degrees centigrade warming from the pre-industrial period. So we are at the threshold of real catastrophe, and we have to take actions, and that early warning and the heat wave management have to work together. Already this year, entire Southeast Asia and Eastern Asia are neighboring countries. Myanmar, Bangladesh, and eastern parts of India has been reeling under severe heat wave conditions. Bangladesh recorded April one of the warmest months, and many places in Myanmar recorded 45, 47 degrees centigrade. We have wildfires taking place in Nepal and Uttarakhand, and in the south, marine heat waves are causing threat to the coral bleaching in Lakshadweep and Gulf of Mannar, and likely to impact Sri Lanka as well. So these things are really alarming, and we need to take proactive actions. I am happy that SAMA with the IRADE, which is a knowledge center, we are organizing this webinar. SAMA has been working in doing capacity building, exchanging useful information, sharing with the neighboring countries, doing capacity building. And we have been successful to a great degree in bringing all stakeholders in the South Asian countries on a platform. So SAMA has conducted a number of capacity buildings programs in extreme weather events, webinars, and this has resulted in participation of more than 2,000 to 3,000 participants in our programs. And we are really enthused with our participation in activities with our knowledge and the national meteorological agencies like India Met Department and various other agencies. So this is a cooperative efforts to address the meteorological hazards, the services which can be provided, and upgrading the skills and knowledge of our neighboring countries where they don't have necessary capacities to use the state of knowledge which we have got in the developed countries. So this is what we are going to provide as a bridge to the South Asian countries. And I am happy that we have active participation from all countries, right from Afghanistan to Myanmar and from Nepal to Sri Lanka. Of course, these are some of them are very active. I am very happy, particularly the Bangladesh and Nepal are really taking lead along with India in propagating and sharing the advancements in early warning systems and interaction with the stakeholders to make these warnings effective in heat wave management. So we have a good participation both for our meteorologists from our South Asian countries to provide more overview of the early warnings and also how these are being used in heat wave management in these countries. So with these opening remarks, once again, I'm very happy. The SAMA is very happy to be associated with IRADE and APN and other partners. SAHHIN is another important platform which updates you all about heatwave activities going on in South Asia. So this is very important. Please log in, join SAMA and strengthen this network. And we look forward for your active participation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to session 1 on early warning systems in South Asia, I welcome Dr. S.E. Bhan, former scientist, IMD, to deliver the lead presentations. He will be joined by esteemed panelists, including Mr. Khaibar Rahmani from Afghanistan Meteorological Department, Dr. Abdul Manan from Bangladesh Meteorological Department, Dr. Mekin Chaw, Director, Department of Meteorology and Hydrology, Myanmar, and Ms. Bhupati Pokharal, Head of Climate Analysis, Department of Hydrology and Meteorology, Nepal. From Pakistan, we have Dr. Ghulam Rasul, former DGM, Pakistan Meteorological Department, Mr. MMP Mendes, Deputy Director from Sri Lanka Meteorological Department.
Can we start, Neha?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope it is visible.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. And at the outset, I thank SAMA, IRADE, and the South Asia Heat Health Information Network for giving me this opportunity in this very important discussion that we are holding today on heat wave, early warning system, and heat action plans in South Asia. So heat wave management is a vast topic and involve many aspects, and some of them would be covered by other panelists and also by Dr. Rohit Magotra when he discusses the heat action plans. I would confine myself to the heat wave early warning system in India particularly. I'm Bhan from India Meteorological. I was with India Meteorological Department till about a month ago. I superannuated on 31st of March. Still, I continue with the affiliations. My apologies for that. So I still feel belonging to the Meteorological Department where I worked for long 34 years. And coming to the region, we have very peculiar settings, highest mountains of the world in north, and then in northwest and northeast of the country, then large riverine plains and their deltas just south of that. There is a desert, a significant part of the northwest India and adjoining Pakistan, highlands of peninsular India. We have a large coastline and islands are also there in the region. And all these settings make us very prone to hazards. We get all kinds of hydrometeorological hazards, including the heat waves. Vulnerability is very high on account of dense population, poor habitations for a large number of people, if not for all. Per capita income is low, so coping capacity does not exist. Exposures are high. That makes us, the entire region, in fact, a very risk-prone zone for heat wave and other hydromet disasters. Added to that is that urbanization is increasing at a very fast rate, which has got implications for heat waves and very strong climate change signals towards warming. So those are the settings for the region. And coming to the heat waves are defined in a different way over different parts of the country, world, depending on their requirements, mostly based on temperature, and also in some of the countries based on a combination of temperature and humidity particularly. But the impacts and discomforts are a function of not just meteorological parameters, which are temperature, humidity, winds, but also are impacted by socio-cultural factors, including clothing, acclimatization, occupations, exposures, and also physiological factors that includes fitness, health, age, and all other these parameters. With this background of heat wave, and the main aspects in the regions are that every aspect of heat waves are increasing. The frequency is increasing, the intensity is increasing, geographic spread, duration are increasing, and projections are really scaring. Dr. Tyagi pointed out towards those. Just to set a bit of context, the number of heat wave days in India in the top left panel, they are on the rise. That shows the frequency is increasing. The intensity in terms of warmest temperature above 90th percentile, the right hand panel shows they are increasing over a period from 1950 to 2015. And if you see the red line, that shows the increase has accelerated over the recent period. And in other parts of the world, of the region also, the temperatures are increasing. Geographic spread of heat wave is increasing across the region. The left panel shows it's a research by Najibullah Khan and his associates. Trends in heat wave affected areas in Pakistan, which is increasing, and the right-hand panel shows heat wave impacted areas in different decades over India, which also shows a significant rise compared to early parts of 1960s to the recent parts. The geographic spread is also increasing. Heat waves are setting early in the season. This is 2022. As many as 9 to 10 meteorological subdivisions of India out of 36, that's nearly a third of around 30% of the area was under heat wave during April itself. In the month of March, and then in April, large number of subdivisions. And let's not forget the 2021 February, where very high temperatures, in 10 to 12 degree more than averages were recorded, and that has got its own implications in various sectors. These are projections of number of heat wave days or the.
Sir, your slides are not moving.
They're not moving. Just
We are still on defining heat waves.
just wait. Did it move now?
No,
Rohit.
sir. No, sir.
So I need to exit, I suppose, and then. Sorry for this technical glitch. It moved for a while, no?
Yes, sir.
Is it moving now, Rohit?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this shows the frequency and intensity are on the rise. That's a fact. The geographic spread is increasing. Heat waves are setting early. Later part of the season is more modulated by the monsoons. If the monsoons are delayed, heat wave period extends, and the onset of the summer monsoon is early. Heat wave abate a bit early in the season. The projection shows a constant increase in number of heat wave days, which the country and also the region is going to experience. And coming to heat wave warning system, we'll talk a bit about the regional system. I won't go into details and then come back to the Indian systems. As far as South Asia is concerned, the regional outlooks are coordinated by the Regional Climate Center, Pune. We have a World Meteorological Organization Regional Climate Center in Pune, which hosts the South Asia Climate Outlook Forums called SESCO every year. In fact, more than once every year. Once the member countries meet, normally before monsoon, because monsoon is very important season for the country. They come out with consensus outlook for the season. And these forecasts are provided in terms of probability of temperature in 3 different categories. That's above normal, normal, and below normal. How likely these temperatures are. And for this year, the forum held its meeting at Pune in India on 29th of last month. That is about 10 days from today. And these are the outlooks, the consensus outlook provided by the forum. If you see on the left-hand panel, that is the outlook for the months of June to September, the 4 months outlook for seasonal maximum temperature on the left. That shows many areas in the region, except perhaps some parts of Northwest India, parts of peninsular and Eastern India are having very high probability of more than average maximum temperatures. Particularly the areas which need focus are Afghanistan, Nepal, Myanmar. Dr. Tyagi pointed out that already temperatures of 40-45 degrees Celsius. And also the usual culprit of Central India, Northwest India, and adjoining South Pakistan, which normally is impacted. And minimum temperatures are also expected to be on higher side over most parts of the region. That is the outlook, mutually agreed outlook provided by all the countries for the entire season. And on this outlook, the actions and then further refinement as the season progresses are done by the respective countries themselves. In India, we have a warning system. I'll come to the individual components of these one by one. We provide the seasonal outlooks, then outlooks in the extended range and short and medium ranges also. The seasonal and monthly outlooks are provided again in terms of probability of temperature in 3 categories. And also for India, we provide the anomaly of heat wave days. How many heat wave days would be more than average or less than average of different parts of the country. And twice in a season, these forecasts are provided, one at the end of February for March to May, and at end of March for April to June. And for every month, an outlook is issued for that month, either on first of the month or the last day of the previous month. And here are the just an example, the probability forecast of maximum temperature on the left-hand side for April to June 2024. These are the areas which were expected to get more than normal temperature. And this is for April 2024. So we have already seen that eastern, central, and peninsular part, west coast of India saw above normal heat wave days. So that forecast came nearly to what it was predicted. And this is anomaly of heat wave days. In April to June, up to 8 number of more than average heat wave days are predicted over western parts of the country and 5 to 6 over eastern parts of the country. And in April, these are the areas which were expected to get more than average number of heat wave days, and which actually happened. Eastern parts, the west coast, and parts of peninsular India. The northwest India was spared, and that is also was reflected in the forecast. A very useful forecast for planning purposes, to set the agenda for the season for health authorities and other disaster managers. And this outlook is then followed up by a weekly outlook, wherein we provided the forecast of temperature and their anomalies for 4 weeks, separate forecast for each week. And these forecasts are updated every week for next 4 weeks. So on left-hand panel, the 4 weeks of actual temperature prediction of maximum temperature. Right-hand side, the 4 graphs are their deviations from average. So the first week, the 3rd to 9th May, which just is coming to be over today. So eastern parts were expected, and that's how the heat waves are there in the country. Next week, a bit of abatement of heat wave because of we expect the rainfall. And then after middle of May, again, heat expected to build up in the country, particularly southern parts of the country. And that is how the seasonal outlook was. So we have a seasonal outlook where health authority, disaster managers can plan. Then as the season actual time comes nearer, we have week by week, predictions where actions can be reviewed. And when the actual season comes, this is the extended range district-wide forecast, which we provide for next 2 weeks. And also this product as how the temperature and their anomalies would evolve over the next month or so. So this is provided every week for next 28 days. And as the season comes closer, we provide the forecast of heat waves for different meteorological subdivisions, where we provided the color-coded warnings for severity of the heat wave, not just the severity, but also based on a combination of severity and duration. If the severity is more, the red code is provided to that. And if severity is moderate, but the duration is longer, then also it's categorized as severe. So red color warning, we have 3 warning levels. Normally, most of the countries across the globe adopt that color for warning level. Yellow alert is moderate temperatures. If you don't expose to them, it may not be harmful. Then orange alert is there, which requires significantly higher the precaution, particularly by vulnerable people. And then there is a red alert, which requires extreme caution and which could be dangerous in many cases if exposed to heat wave. And these are the components of medium range heat wave warning system. I'll come to that page. We provide the observed temperature scenario in this. This is part of a page, heat wave page, which is the observed scenario of last 24 hours, how the temperatures fared up, observed heat wave conditions, where hot and humid days were there. Also, where nights were relatively warmer, because it's also important to get information on night temperatures. Because if nights are also warm, the heat load remains over considerable part of the day. The bodies do not cool, and they have their own health implications. And then there is information on temperature exceeding on different percentiles, 90th, 95th, and 98th, which roughly corresponds to the 3 warning levels of yellow, orange, and red. Information on wind speed and relative humidity, because these are also important. And then also there are forecasts for all these parameters, that is temperature, heat wave warning, hot and humid days. And we have also started from this year heat forecast for heat index for different days. This is still in experimental stage, because the impact of heat index, different heat index, all the people has not been quantified so far. But we have started providing. Some of the organizations can help us provide the impact so that they can be categorized. We still do not have categories like many other Western countries have it. And then the information is disseminated through various means, including an address message to health and disaster management authorities, social media, internet, and also through the common alerting protocols, where all the population within an area which is likely to be impacted are automatically provided the warning through the mobile phones. If I'm in an area where heat waves are expected, I would get that warning, irrespective of wherever my number is registered. So if I happen to be in the impacted area, I would get the warning. So that's a WMO and Disaster Management Authority's coordinated dissemination system, which is proving very effective. Then there are district-wise warnings up to next 5 days. They are again color-coded for severity and duration of heat waves. We also provide quantitative temperature forecast for more than 1,000 cities for next 7 days, where actual temperatures for different districts cities and districts are provided in quantitative terms. And also, some of the cities in India, they have established their own thresholds. I'm getting some voice, please. Those cities have established their own threshold, irrespective of deviation of temperatures. So, say Ahmedabad wants that if temperature exceeds 41 degrees Celsius, please issue a yellow watch. If it exceeds 43 degrees Celsius, issue an orange alert. And if it exceeds 45 degrees Celsius, issue a red alert, irrespective of their deviations. Deviations may not qualify to be called it as a heat wave day, but still the health authorities want. So for all such cities, these alerts are issued, and based on these alerts, they further alert their health management system so that heat wave related illnesses can be managed effectively. This is the heat index forecast for different days, but we provide. This is still in experimental stage, not validated over India. Therefore, their cutoffs in terms of severity are not provided. And the India Meteorological maintains a heat wave page in IMD website, which have daily impact-based heat wave warning bulletins. The bulletin contains the impacts on different sectors. Also, extended outlook for next 2 weeks, seasonal forecast, which I discussed, and district heat wave warnings, and experimental heat index. There is an interactive map of actual temperature, 5 days heat wave forecast, 5-day forecast for temperature and heat wave, then normals of humidity at different hours for different months, and then station-wise percentiles of temperature are also provided. Because wherever normals are not there, the percentiles act as a deviation and a warning for heat wave. And there is some general information like FAQs and definitions and skills of the forecast are also there. And also this year, IMD has augmented its location-specific forecast system through a system which we have named MOSM-GRAM. Like Telegram, it's a warning of MOSM, where hourly to 3-hourly forecasts of temperature and other parameters up to next 10 days are provided. And the system has got a capability where you can click at any desired location to get these forecasts. You can get the forecast through coordinates if you have the latitude and longitudes available. You can also search by name of your location or a block. Block is an administrative unit in the country comprising of a number of villages and maybe a town or two by the name of that block. And also very easy to get the forecast by pin code. If I know the pin code of my area, I can type the query and get the forecast. The forecasts are provided for temperature, humidity, wind speed, direction, and cloud cover. Maybe IMD is also planning to provide the forecast for heat index through this space, which should happen very quickly. This is a new development where every place in the country is now can get this own location-specific forecast. So that is the heat wave forecast system for the country. Heat wave management system is much larger aspect, which I think will be covered by subsequent speaker there. So I will stop here. And if there are inquiries regarding heat wave prediction system in India, they're welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Neha. You can take over from here.
Thank you, sir. We can now proceed with the country presentations.
Hello. Yeah, may I request Professor Tyagi to kindly moderate the session? Sir.
Thank you, Rohit. Bhan Saab has very extensively covered all the aspects of early warning system from the seasonal to the local. Of course, during the discussions, we'll look forward that what all more can be done, and especially to make these forecasts available to the last mile and use of this by the various stakeholders. So that is equally important. Now we have country presentations. There is some rescheduling to be done because connectivity to Afghanistan is a challenge. So we may get connected afterwards. So we start with from Pakistan, where Dr. Ghulam Rasool Sahab, ex-DGM, may I request him to make a presentation?
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I would like to share my screen first. So good afternoon, everybody. I am Ghulam Rasool. I would like to present Pakistan case, especially Karachi one. There are different definitions used in different countries for defining heat wave. So WMO simply narrate it as maximum temperature above 5 degrees Celsius for 5 consecutive days. Pakistan is following same definition coupled with the humidity level and wind speed. Over land area, we are using low humidity levels and low wind speed, while along the coast, we are considering higher humidity levels and low wind speed. Especially for Karachi case, there are several reasons of heat wave in Karachi. The first one, formation of low pressure areas over the Arabian Sea near the coast of Pakistan, discontinuity of sea breeze, winds blowing from land area, especially northeast, where Thar Desert is located, and northwest Balochistan area, combined with the high temperatures and high humidity. There is a synoptic situation also an indicator. When heat flow shifts towards Thar Desert, that is also an indication of forthcoming heat wave. In 2015, Pakistan experienced a very severe heat wave during the third week of June, especially 19 to 23. June temperature stayed above 40 degrees Celsius. There were power outages, in metropolitan of the size of Karachi, where different classes are residing. So those who are well off, they can put on their ACs, and power supply will be disturbed at that juncture, especially to the poor areas. When power outages are taking place at that time, the water shortage will be the natural outcome, because electric motors are pumping water to the high buildings, multi-story buildings. And most of the poor people are living in those high-rise buildings, flats and other amenities. So that heat wave took more than 1,200 lives. At that time, there was a heat wave in Indian part also. So these are the satellite pictures which are showing the formation of low pressure area over North Arabian Sea, and after its formation, its movement towards coast of Pakistan. In realization of the gravity of situation, Pakistan Meteorological Department, National Disaster Management Authority, and Karachi Electric Company, we took the initiative to tackle this situation, especially for Karachi. PMD and K Electric signed an MOU when where it was committed that K Electric will be managing its load in Karachi area on the advice of Pakistan Meteorological Department. It worked very well during next year, 2016. There was another heat wave which persisted over 9 days, but not of that severity of 2015. So learning from that intervention, we continued and established an early warning system in early warning center in Karachi. And that early warning system then continued over the summer period, starting from May, ending up by September. These are some glimpses of that early warning center, where round the clock people are working. And this is the specimen how 3 days ahead maximum temperature, minimum temperature, wind speed, wind direction, and relative humidity in the morning and evening are predicted. And now we are using color coding also. At the alert level starts from 38 degrees Celsius and relative humidity 70 to 80% in the evening. So that in the morning, even higher than that, wind speed taking shift towards land. So that is alert level. Alert level is of yellow color, and then when temperature crosses 40 degrees Celsius, it becomes red. Up to 45, it's red. When early warning center was established, then there were other stakeholders who also took interest, and they joined hands with the PMD. PMD is now there is a good framework of early warning system, where National Health Authority and provincial health authorities, disaster management authorities at national level, provincial level, and district levels, they are also taken on board. And media is very important, not only print and electronic media, even the social media also. Community organizations, we are thinking about NGOs to be involved, but at present there are some community organizations which are helping us, which are taking part in this activity. The local government role is very important. So they are proactive, especially by the onset of summer. They get ready, and then all these people are sitting in PMD, Early Warning Center. Well, then it was not only Karachi where heat waves are experienced. Now, almost in all the urban centers, heat waves are occurring. So therefore, it was realized that there should be some comprehensive strategy to cope with this situation. So it was recommended in 2015 heat wave report by the experts that heat health warning system of WMO should be followed, and that is being followed to establish a comprehensive early warning system at the national level, and then at the provincial levels, and if possible to the district levels also. There are several organizations which are now participating. Pakistan Meteorological Department is a lead organization. Then national and provincial health authorities, national, provincial, and district disaster management authorities, and rescue services 1122. NGOs, academia, and academia is now vibrant. They are taking a lot of interest, and there are young graduates who are even taking research on early warning systems, especially heat, flood, and drought. The communities, as I mentioned, they are already on board, but in different parts of the country, community organizations have different shape. So we are planning to take all of them on board to reach out to the people. An organized public awareness campaign should be launched with the help of all experts using national electronic and print media. PEMRA, which is Media Regulatory Authority, so they are at present showing some sluggish behavior. There's a lot of inertia, but I think at some stage they will be pushed that warning messages at least should be displayed free of cost. So this is all about warning system of Karachi and planned warning system for whole of the country of Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rasool Sahab. It's so heartening to see that post 2015 heat wave impact over Karachi and southern parts of Sindh. Pakistan Met Department and national and provincial agencies have taken necessary steps, and we have come up with the heat warning system for the entire Pakistan. And the way forward, which you have suggested positively, is the way forward, because warning alone will not make difference. We have been issuing warnings for a long period, but it's only when all stakeholders, the state, the local agencies, and the community come on board, and dissemination is done, and public awareness is there about the precautions to be taken, the effective heat management can take place. And I'm happy, we all are happy that Pakistan is moving forward and taking necessary steps. During our discussions, we will take note of your recommendations and of way forward. Thank you once again. And we move to the next presentation. I
Thank you,
request my colleague from Myanmar, Dr. Chow, to make presentation, because Myanmar this year had experienced exceptionally high temperatures, and I'm sure the Myanmar Met Department must have given due warnings to the public and taken necessary precautionary measures. Over to you, Dr. Chow.
Hello.
Yeah, you are audible and visible.
Can you see my presentation?
No. We are not able to see your presentation.
Oh. Hello. Hello.
Yes, we hear you and we can see this presentation also.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Mekin Cho, Director from Department of Meteorology and Hydrology. Today I will present about our country's heatwave condition of this year and last year and other relevant factors about that. So there are a lot of issues from the climate-related organization from IPCC. For example, IPCC stated with further global warming, we can expect an increase in the intensity and frequency of and duration of the heat wave like that. And also we are facing during 2024 April, many of South Asia countries issue a series of heat alerts due to the heat wave events. In also April 2024 was warmer globally than any previous April in the data record, with an average of 0.67 degrees centigrade above the 91 to 2020 average for April, and 0.14 degrees Celsius above the previous high set in April 2060. This is I pick up from the Climate Copernicus Education Center's issue like this. So we also have the heat wave problems and relevant problems in the history. For example, 2010, we recorded of about 47.2 degrees centigrade in May of 2010 at the Central Dry Zone. At that time, this record was the highest temperature, daily maximum temperature of the ASEAN country also. In that year, a lot of problems we are facing, like dry out the lake, and also we are facing the storage of clean and drinking water. Even though in the lower Myanmar area, we are not only the central dry zone area, even though the Lower Myanmar area also facing such kind of the problem. The most significant one in 2010 is the Inle Lake. This is very famous for our tourism. It is in 2010, this lake is totally dry up due to the severe drought. Like this year also, we are facing, we are recorded a lot of the new maximum, daily maximum temperature records, especially very significant one is at the Chao station, which is located at the central dry zone area. Firstly, on 6th of April this year, we recorded 47.4 degrees centigrade. And then again, 28th of April, that station also new recorded of about the 48.2 degrees centigrade, which is the highest record of daily maximum temperature in Myanmar history. So these are the highest daily maximum records during 2023 last year and the this year of summer times. For example, this year, new maximum daily record temperature recorded at about 35 times at several regions of our central dry zone area. If we look at the chart at the upper top of the right panel, that is the annual average temperature for the Myanmar area during 1981 up to 2023. Here we can clearly see that the temperature trend are increasing of about comparing with 1980 and 2023 differences of 2.something degrees Celsius. And moreover, nowadays Colorado Weather Center every day this center announced the cities of world cities of daily maximum highest temperature. So at this year, a lot of cities of Myanmar are included among 50 hottest cities in the world, or many days in the April. So this is a scenario we developed last 2 years ago, for especially for the summer season. So for the time saving, I don't want to go to detail, but I can summarize that daily maximum temperatures are increasing with the RCP 4.5 and RCP 8.5 also. Intensity is also increasing. Daily maximum temperatures are increasing in, for example, sharp rising in maximum temperature of about 7 to 9 degrees centigrade year 2030 and 9 to 10 degrees centigrade in higher than normal in year 2100 with RCP 8.5. RCP 4.5 also clearly showed that the trends, the increasing in trend as shown in the figure. So these are the detailed data about the states and region of summer times daily maximum temperature scenarios for next 2030 and 2050 and also 2100 with RCP 4.5 and RCP 8.5. This is the extreme maximum temperature analysis for one station, which is maximum recorded of 2010 with 47.2 degrees centigrade at that period. So here the model, we analyze this extreme maximum temperature analysis with the sinking model. The scenario shows that this amount of temperature 47.2 degrees centigrade will be the future as usual as normal with the RCP 4.5 and something like that. So I don't want to go to detail about this. By summarizing this slide, we can conclude about that extreme maximum temperature events will also be increasing in intensity in near future as well. So this is the return period analysis, and it also shows that the probabilities of occurrence will be increasing in near future as well. So both intensity and the occurrence frequency are increasing intensity, as well as the frequency also increasing in trend in near future. So these are the developed last 2 years ago with climate scenario or developed same claims. So here I would like to present about the heatwave condition of last year and this year. So heatwave definition, there is no universal definition for the heatwave. Each country develop their definition with their local categories. So for example, WMO expressed as daily maximum temperature needs for more than 5 consecutive days the maximum normal temperature by 9 degrees Fahrenheit, 5 degrees Celsius. The normal period being defined at the time 1961 to 1990. IMD also developed their category by analyzing and assessment. With many assessment, they define their definition for the heatwave. And Rouhani, 1980, sorry, and 2080 and 2090 also identified the criteria for the heatwave, as they state that daily maximum temperature Tmax greater than daily climatological 90% of T maximum, and climatology daily temperature maximum greater than 35 degrees Celsius for consecutive 3 or more days as a heatwave. The baseline value is calculated based on 5-day window, and reference period is 1975 to 2000. Like this definition here, I make an analysis on the same stations of central dry zone area. Currently, Myanmar has no exact definition for heatwave, generally stated 7 to 8 degrees Celsius above normal or temperature maximum, daily maximum temperature regarded as normal heatwave, and 9 degrees centigrade above normal as severe heatwave, etc. But here, in this presentation, I use the daily maximum temperature or Tmax is greater than daily climatological 90% or maximum temperature for consecutive 3 or more days are counted as a heatwave days. The reference periods used for this calculation is 1990 up to 2020 climatological period. So the first station, Chao Station, which is situated at the central dry zone area, here the uppermost chart is about the for the 2023 with 90% or daily maximum temperature of March, April, and May are calculated separately at that time. During 2023,
Dr. Chow, you have to summarize.
yes,
please. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So I analyzed 5 stations. So to be summarized, during 2023, almost all the stations of heatwave observed at that week of April and first week of May, and on the first week of 2024 April, on the first week of April, heatwave hit almost all the stations except Niemu station, one station except, and 4 week of April period hit all the analysis area of the Myanmar with a duration of 7 to 10 days in each station. And I also checked the heat index information with our local data at the heat wave period, April 2024 and 2023 show within the range of humidity, relative humidity of 35% and the maximum of about generally 43 degrees Celsius during that period. Therefore, those refer to the danger to extremely danger in the categories assigned or above 50 to 55 degrees centigrade Celsius, and so trigger the heat stroke and other heat-related problems with prolonged exposure. So at that time, the Department of Ministry of Health issued the protective guidelines for the heat wave. And we have a challenge and our needs because nowadays heat waves are more frequently and more intense. And so early warning system and early action plans on heat wave are critically essential to establish in Myanmar. Lack of technical knowledge assessments are also challenges to issue heat wave early warning system in Myanmar. Development of heat wave early warning system is the first step and critical component for an effective heat action plan. Therefore, technical transfer programs like sharing on new knowledges, updates, and the quantity capacity building training also enhance the effectiveness of regional countries' heat wave early warning systems. So, at the moment, currently, Myanmar is actively participating in summer activities and will cooperate future activities not only in summer but also in South Asia Heat Health Information Network activities. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chow, for sharing your detailed analysis. I am really impressed that within short period of current year's heat wave, which has record bearing or central Myanmar, you have done a very detailed study. And let me assure you that SAMA and other agencies in the South Asia will cooperate in enhancing the capabilities of early warning system in Myanmar and carry out necessary capacity building. Thank you so much for your presentation. And now we move next to the Nepal. May I request Dr. Pokhriyal to make a presentation? Nepal, Terai regions do experience frequent heat waves, and the northern parts, the wildfire as it is happening right now. So will be Pokhriyal, your slides is visible, but you have to make it full screen and start your presentation. Okay, thank you. You are not audible.
You need to unmute your mic.
Please make it full screen and unmute.
So am I audible?
Now you are audible. Please start.
Huh?
You are audible. Please start now. You are audible.
Okay. Okay. So I'll go through this one. So meteorological factors: prevalence of hot, dry air over a region, and absence of moisture in upper atmosphere, sky particularly cloudless, and a large amplitude of anticyclonic flow over the area. So heat wave in Nepal occur mainly from April to June, and in some rare cases even in July. Peak month of heat wave over Nepal is May and June, and predictions are these are made basically on synoptic analysis of various meteorological parameters and from the consensus guidance from regional and global numerical prediction models like WRF, GFS, GFS, and basically if the max greater than equal to 90 percentile, then we call it hot days, and if maximum temperature is greater than or equal to 90 percentile, very hot days, and similarly if greater than 99 percentiles, then extreme hot days, and similarly if hot days occur consecutively for greater than 3 days, then mild heat wave. Very hot days, if it occurs for more than 3 days, it's moderate heat wave, and it's if extreme hot days, if it occurs more than 3 consecutive days, then it's extreme heat wave. So this is the annual climate summary which we have prepared for 2023. Hot days and heat wave. The southern part of country experienced hot days and mild to moderate heat wave condition in third week of April, which lasted for a week. Similarly, sudden increase in maximum temperature by the end of May lead to mild to severe heat wave condition over large parts of country, which continued till second week of June. And the heat wave was persistent over central and western parts before the onset of monsoon, and the temperature exceeded 42 degrees Celsius, especially in the southern parts: Kapilvastu, Rupandehi, Navalparasi, West, Chitwan, Parsa, Bara, Sarlahi, Dhanusa, Mahottari, and Siraha districts. So these are the historical record break which happened in 2023. As you can see, the rising temperatures. And this is the extreme historical all-time record breaks, which we can see especially in the western part of Tarai. And these are the maximum temperature. This is on the from Tarai region, annual extreme maximum temperature. So we can see increase in many of the eastern Tarai region. We can see the increase in maximum temperature. So this is the maximum temperature Tarai region. So these are of number of hot days, number of very hot days, number of extreme hot days, and number of heat wave in Nepal. We show significant decrease in western Tarai. So we are saying eastern part of Tarai, they are also expected to they are expected to observe extreme record-breaking temperature in coming days. So we have to prepare accordingly for the coming years. And this was a special weather bulletin which we issued in 2018, and 4 heat wave bulletin were issued. This is on Nepali day, just 19, 24, 29, and Asar 1. And this is the observed heat wave condition. This is of 22nd April 2024. What we observed, and a special weather bulletin was issued in year 2081. 2 heat wave bulletins were issued this year, and it's on by SAC 11 to 15, 2081, and SAC 16 to 20, 2081. So this is the contact address of our website. This is our website, bhm.gov.np, and weather early warnings, these are especially issued through our meteorological forecast division. So this is our contact address. And now we will move to the state of the climate drivers. And currently we can see ENSO, neutral ENSO, monsoon 2024 likely of La Nina, and IOD neutral IOD. And in 2024 will be expecting positive IOD. So maximum temperature forecast, this is from RCC IMD Pune, and we can see first week and second week especially a rise in bit decrease in temperature, and we are likely to expect from in third and fourth likely to increase. Maximum temperature is likely to increase, and this is from JMA, and this also shows the similar condition. with likely to increase temperature in third and fourth week. So now to the heat wave early action plan. With increase in frequency and intensity of heat waves because of climate change, heat action plans these are components of cities' climate adaptation strategies for planning climate resilient cities. So based on early warning from DHM actions, heat wave action plans are made, and NDRRMA and government agencies, INGOs, NGOs, CVOs, all security agencies, civil societies, they all are working. They are working together in heat wave action plan. And cities like Nepalganj in Western Tarai, they have prepared well-documented heatwave action plan 2023. And it also requires to be followed by other main cities that are vulnerable, though they are doing their work in heat action plan. So these are the general advisories. These are issued for heatwave, like emergency kits, and especially avoid going out sun between 12 to 3. These all are very general type of advisories which we issue in for heat wave. And these are advisories from National Disaster Agency and in local language, and especially this is also some focused for kids also. And this is the Nepalganj heat action plan which they have prepared for 2023, and they have prepared about the target areas, so with whom to lead organizations and stakeholders to coordinate with, and these are public awareness and in various aspects, communication, cooling centers, and drinking water, all this. So I'd like to end my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pokhriyal, for updating us about the early warning systems and the climatology of heat waves in Nepal, and also the heat action plan, which are being developed by many cities, especially and public awareness campaign launched by the Nepal Disaster Management Authorities. So these are the coordinated activities. We need to strengthen our early warning systems and make it local specific, taking into consideration the vulnerabilities. So I'm sure Nepal Met Department is looking into this direction. Thank you so much. And next we go to the Sri Lanka. May I request Mendes to make presentation? Kindly keep it because we are have got time constraint. So keep it 5 to 7 minutes. I'll be thankful. Thank you, Mendes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible and visible both. Thank you.
Yeah, sir. Thank you very much, sir, and thank you, Sama, to given this opportunity to us to discuss our heat weather monitoring and early warning system in Sri Lanka. So I am Mendes, the Deputy Director of Forecasting Department of Meteorology. So here I am going to discuss with you some our experience heat wave condition in Sri Lanka, and also how we are monitoring and what is our early warning mechanism and what are the future plan, what we are going to be this warning mechanism, improve our mechanism. So as you know that there are no proper there are mechanism, broad mechanisms are available for the IPCC and WMO for the heat waves. So still there are no proper mechanism, but there are several countries, as previous presenters mentioned, that they have their own definition for the heat waves. You know that there are several heat wave drivers across different scales. Basically, the high pressure systems, then global warming. I am not going to more details with the time consuming, and also the urban heat island effects, then drought and dry condition, then climate variability like El Nino, La Nina, and other climate variabilities highly influence for the increase of this heat condition, and then the geographical and topographical conditions, then also the changing in the wind patterns, and also the human activities such as local factors, land use changes, deforestation, irrigation practices. These are the main we identify that main drivers in the large scale for the increase of this heat condition, not only in Sri Lanka, in the world. So in the Sri Lanka context, what we are experiencing basically, generally Sri Lanka does not experiencing heat wave condition due to the some reason because of the heat. You know that Sri Lanka is a small landmass surrounding the larger Indian Ocean. So also there are no seasonal high pressure cells in Sri Lanka or low level or middle levels. So, and also there are no warm or severe weather advection in Sri Lanka. Therefore, we are not experiencing like heat wave condition like other countries. But what we are experiencing basically during the month of February, March, April, and May, we are experiencing some warm weather conditions because of the some of the local factors. Basically, during the February, March, April, May, we had very weak wind flow over the country, and we are receiving high amount of radiation during this period. As you know, that the very less cloudless sky during daytime. And we are receiving a lot of solar radiation, both solar and thermal radiation. And our weather is dry, very less rainfall we are receiving this period. And also the low level high humidity, which is affecting for the uncomfortable condition in the human. So also some of the local wind system like a Kachan winds. So that is the factors getting increase our temperature. Some depend on the wind system. So therefore, these during this combined with these several weather factors, we had warm weather. We have warm weather during February, March, April, and May. This is the rainfall pattern, seasonal rainfall distribution in Sri Lanka during different season. We have two monsoon. You know that southwest monsoon and northeast monsoon. In between these two monsoon, we call that the intermonsoon period. During intermonsoon period, mean that March, April. So we are receiving very less rainfall in country. Only some amount of rainfall we are receiving in the southwestern part. Other part is very less rainfall. That is one of the reason we had during this period very warm weather in Sri Lanka. So combined with the other factors like I had mentioned here, weak wind flow, high radiation, dry weather, dry soil. So and also the low humidity in the area. So we had very uncomfortable with the increase of the temperature. So coming into the climatological temperature, maximum climatology in Sri Lanka, basically we have maximum highest recorded temperature during March, April, and May. So this period we are getting very uncomfortable with these conditions. So here we are, these two graphs is showing that last February, maximum and minimum temperature offset, how much is the deviate from the normal. So you see that during the April, maximum temperatures, most of the stations higher than the normal, about 2-3 degrees, some of the end of the February. So it is around 4 or 5 degrees higher from the normal. And also nighttime temperature again, during the nighttime, most of except for the second week of the February is higher from the normal values. So this is creating actually uncomfortables in the humans in during February, March. So also same in the this March in last March 2004. So also maximum and minimum temperature both are in the higher from the normal. So how we are monitoring this situation, this warm weather situation, basically we are evaluating the meteorological data against established criteria, basically thresholds and comfort indices and some historical data. So analyze this based on these indices, we are analyzing the also health threat and combine the meteorological and health impact assessment. So we are issuing the advisory for the people. Basically, we are using some comfort indices. That there are several comfort indices. It's based on the application. We can select any indices. Here we have taken two indices in Sri Lanka. One is the heat index. Both are, another one is the UTCI, Universal Thermal Climate Index. these two indexes we are calculating. These two indexes are basically the health applications. Using the model, the numerical models, we are calculating by model data. We calculating these two indices. UTCI, very recently we start that last 2 months ago, we start calculating this UTCI value using the ECMWF data. So, as you know, that heat index is the one of the globally used index. It is using basically temperature and relative humidity to calculate the index. We already had categorized these. There are some categorization available, but we had categorization according to the our condition. Basically, we are using the 27 to 38 is a normal, and 39 to 45 is the caution level, and also 46 and 46 to 50 for the extreme caution level. We are issuing warning for when it is coming to the caution level. So basically, we are issuing warning and advise it to the people using heat index. Currently, we are using this one. We start actually 2018 to issue the warning using the heat index. And also, we are now calculating a universal thermal climate index. That is the one of the very good index. It is combining with the several. This is actually called. There are key features in the UTCI. That is why we selected that one. It is a thermophysiological significant across the entire range of heat exchange. It is applicable for whole body calculation. So it is basically calculating human body is considered as the black body, and is calculating the radiation basically. So it is very useful index because it is taking several parameters like air temperature, and wind speed, vapor pressure, and solar radiation. So there are several factors because that is factors we are affecting for our condition, Sri Lanka condition. So that is why we are selecting this one. Using some of the data from the ECMW, so we are calculating this one, UTCI index. So still we are not categorizing according to Sri Lanka context. So we are trying to do some validation with this result. So it is the ability to calculate the UTCI and also the mean radiant temperature. That is very useful one. Then UTCI, and also it is the ability to calculate the indoor and outdoor shaded temperature. So UTCI value, that is very useful. And also we can take this, but we have to categorize the values according to our discussion with the actual health sector. So we are discussing is going on how we categorize these values according to our content. So based on but currently we are issuing the warning using the heat index. Still we are using this heat index values. You see that this is the heat index value we are calculating in the February and March. Totally February, March, and April, all the days we had issued advisory and warning for the people, because generally in the Sri Lanka, February is a little bit cold month, but this year it is the warmest month in Sri Lanka. So March and April also same. So now it is monsoon, little bit rain is starting now. Now it's getting little bit colder, and heat conditions get reducing now. So basically we are including some actions also. The warning, our warning during the for the common. Actually, this is not the broad action, but common actions for the people. So basically, we are sending the information to our website and our Facebook page, email, and also the disaster management authorities. They are again adding to the advice to the different sectors like school, how you react to this for the school peoples and school children. And children working, people working in the outside, or some workers. So there are different sectors using different ways in these advisories. So coming into the conclusion, basically, you know that the global and regional some factors affecting for the influence that or increasing of this heat wave condition in the largely regionally as well as in the country-wise. So therefore, collaborative studies and research are needed for to identify some effective factors or these conditions. And also in Sri Lanka, so we need to develop some warning criteria for the extreme thermal condition and also the temperature threshold associated with the increase of adverse health outcomes. So that's why we need, now we are discussing with our health sector and other relevant parties to get some threshold values actually. So coming in to minimize this risk, so we need actually more eco-friendly solutions and also need to aware the people how you react for these conditions. I think this is my last slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mendes, for bringing out the use of the heat index and the UTCI in Sri Lanka. This is a good initiative, but we need to be careful while developing categories and these needs to be validated over a long period of time. But this is what is required for each country and each region, that we should have our own thresholds. And for the thresholds, you need a health data, which is very important for human health.
Yes,
and so these are the two things I am sure Sri Lanka will look into. Another thing which probably now we'll have to also look into the marine heat waves. So that is again becoming very important for countries which have oceans and the water bodies surrounding them. So so thank you so much, and positively we should work together for South Asian countries. Each region is unique, that the countries have to work for that, but for large scale, I'm sure the regional center, which is in Pune, the IMD, can provide you assistance. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And now we move to the last presentation. We have now Dr. Abdul Manan from Bangladesh. So may I request him to make presentation? We are running short of time, so I know so much work has been done in Bangladesh on heat wave early warnings. So, but I like him to highlight the key findings and the way forward. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Manan.
Thank you, sir, for allowing me to make this presentation. So actually, I will go also quickly as per your instruction. So this is the heat wave we are talking about. So my slides are visible to you all?
Yes, you are visible and audible.
Okay, thank you very much. So my presentation title is Heat Wave Situation in Bangladesh, Past, Present and Future. So that is what I have been trying to highlight some of the information. You might be knowing that March, April, May is the most vulnerable season for heat wave condition over Bangladesh territory. And if we go the temperature distribution, what is found the average temperature, even in case of maximum temperature distribution over Bangladesh, we found that western part, especially and its extension up to central part, is highly vulnerable to high temperature, as well as heat wave conditions are very crucial over that area. So let us have a look in the recent period, 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. These are the number of hot days which we have been observed through different aspects. What is found that the western part and its adjoining Indian territory are very much crucial, and almost every year we are facing this sort of heat wave condition over the period. But in some year it has been very crucial, like this year, and in some year it is comparatively lighter heat wave condition is there. So accordingly, you might have seen that in the disaster calendar in Bangladesh, actually this is a hazard. One of the hazards, that is very important hazards in Bangladesh right now, that is the heat wave. And there are some pictures you might have seen that during this period, people of Bangladesh are very highly suffering, especially central to southern part of Bangladesh, because of moisture availability over Bangladesh region, as well as the anticyclonic flow from the Bay of Bengal, which has been carrying moisture content over the lower tropospheric level, and which has been given highly discomfort to our people. So there are some existing definitions of that is available everywhere. So I think in Bangladesh case also, one standard deviation has been taken into consideration. That is, if the temperature value is beyond 99% level of percentile, that is above 36 degrees Celsius and it's above. And as well as if it has been continuing for consecutive 3 days, in that case, the heat wave condition has been declared and its follow-up action has been taken into consideration. So these are the some categories of the heat wave: mild heat wave, moderate heat wave, severe, very severe heat wave condition as per the temperature, as well as of course is deviation from the normal temperature also. So there are some observational facilities all over in Bangladesh right now. 61 surface observatories are there. From there, actually, we are having temperature records in a day. That is maximum temperature and other relevant information are also there. But in this aspect of what we have been taking into consideration the heat wave condition based on the maximum temperature, that is in 2021 and 2022. You might have seen that there are several that is scales are there, and some scales are very strong. That means out of these 36, 37 stations, 35 stations has already been recorded. And this high temperature condition that is above the 36 degrees Celsius. Actually, these are the crucial periods for Bangladesh region. And in some cases, there are narrow bands are available. These narrow bands are not giving highly discomfort to the people because within 2 to 3 days, people are getting relief from these events. So that's why people are not suffering very much. So similarly, like in the earlier presentation, what I found that the heat index information, what we have been trying to deal, how this index has been very crucial for the society and why the southern and southeastern parts of Bangladesh people are very highly suffering for this event. What we found that there are the anticyclonic flow locating during this period over the either northern part of the Bay of Bengal or very close to the head Bay of Bay of Bengal. During that period, due to this anticyclonic flow, the lower troposphere are getting moisture content consecutive days over the period, and during this period, the minimum temperature, especially night temperature, becoming very high. In some cases, it is near to the 30 degrees Celsius. So people are not getting very much relief from this sort of events. Accordingly, they are suffering so highly. So this is the cause, and what we found that before onsetting of these sort of hazards over Bangladesh region, actually heat low is being formed over the West Bengal and Bihar and adjoining areas. Then it has been extended towards southwest and then the western parts of Bangladesh. Actually, this is the main synoptic cause for occurring the that means heat wave condition over Bangladesh region. But of course, some other influence are taking place in this aspect also. So these are the some area what we found that during this period, the heat wave condition is becoming very crucial, especially southwestern parts of Bangladesh is very common, and it has the extension over the southern and even southeastern parts of Bangladesh. In the earlier period, southeastern parts, especially in hilly regions, are not so much susceptible, but during the last couple of years, what we found that the southeastern parts are also suffering, are becoming increasing, and it has the extension even beyond the central part. That means in some cases it has good coverage over the eastern parts of Bangladesh also, though in the eastern part of Bangladesh are mostly hilly, especially southeastern and northeastern parts of hilly regions over Bangladesh territory. Similarly, some other cases what we found that it is being increasing over the period. So this is the case for 2024. You might have seen that from March onward, the temperature are below than the normal condition. Once the April has come, you see, during the last first week of April, it has been increasing. Then it has been raised and continuously it has been in its position. That means, you see, from 12 or 11 to 30 April, there are the heat wave condition over almost all parts of Bangladesh. Only extreme northeast and extreme northern parts of Bangladesh were beyond of this coverage. And for getting the understanding of that one, actually, I have been trying to calculate the weighted mean temperature, whether it has been given the extremely heat, tolerant, beyond tolerant condition or not, or is there any events has been happening in the earlier periods also. So this is the first one. What we found that you see from 1963 to onward, that is the Dhaka station. In the 1960, there are the heat wave conditions similar to stronger that one. And people are trying to say that yes, this is the latest one, that is in 2024, which is the highest discomfort during the period or what we have been observed. But practically it's not true. It has been found that through this analysis, 1960 was the more that means crucial than even 2024. But interestingly, the heatwave condition in the recent period has been consecutively coming. Last year there are the heatwave conditions. In the previous year, even 2018 and 19, there are the heatwave conditions. That means the frequency of the heatwave condition is becoming increasing over the Bangladesh region. That is the point. This is one of the longest recorded weather stations in Bangladesh. That is the Khulna. That is the southwestern part of Bangladesh, as well as the Jafar. Here we found that yes, in the Khulna region, this was the highest condition. That means from 1948 onward, whatever the records are available, the recent one, that means the 2024 heatwave condition, has been crossed the earlier all records. This sort of thing. Similarly, in the case of Jashar, some similar like situation is there. 1960 was that is highest, and this year it was the third highest, that means crucial heatwave condition over Bangladesh. It means that in Bangladesh, there are the heatwave condition is becoming more and more crucial, and people's suffering are becoming more and more. So this is the temperature record, one of the crucial stations where most of the days are being recorded maximum temperature within Bangladesh territory. That is the Waranga station. You might have seen that this year it has been started from this point and it has been continuing even the last day of the month. And not only that, even beyond more 3 days are also continuing the heatwave condition over that area. And it has crossed all of its earlier record, which is beyond the even 1992 also. That means the southwestern corners people are becoming sufferings are very high and high. So this one is the country average weighted mean temperature. We need to know actually really in Bangladesh territory whether this year heatwave condition was the strongest one or what is its position. So to do this, actually I have been trying to calculate what we found that is 1961 is the topmost, that means crucial heatwave event, and this one is the third crucial event, and this one is the second one in the crucial event. But in the here you see these are the 3 events consecutively we have been recorded, and accordingly we have been praised that one. So let us see the projection. There are some that means IPCC project models are there. Through this projection, what we found that heatwave condition, that means temperature condition, especially in the summer, as well as the maximum temperature is becoming higher and higher in the period of time. And here you see similar situation is happening over at other places also. Similar situation is also we have been observed over as a whole over Bangladesh also. So in that case, we need to do some sort of analysis how this has been happening. You might have seen that how this heatwave condition has been intervening over Bangladesh, how it has been included over this region. Similarly, some other cases, so this model, this is the one of the model IPCC, this is the latest model. What we found that heatwave condition has the good coverage over the western and southwestern parts of Bangladesh. Similarly, in the other model, that is also showing that yes, not only there is very limited area will be beyond the heatwave condition in the upcoming future. That's why people are concerning about this one. In other models, it is also showing like this. Even you see, as I told, northeastern and southeastern parts were now not under beyond the heatwave situation at this moment. So these are some other cases also there. That means in future, we people are having more and more heatwave condition. That is the model's prediction is there. So let us see some other important areas. That is the Rajshahi, Dhaka, and Khulna station we have been taken into consideration. We have found that in similar situation at other places. That means heatwave condition.
I request to summarize.
Yes, sir. Yes, I am going to summarize. So this is the continuously going on, and this is the projection. You might have seen that this is the 1971 to 80, and that means in the next upcoming period, it becomes more and more crucial. That means more number of hot days as well as the heatwave situation we are having. In the other cases, we see 2020 to 2000, similar situation we have been facing with different models approach. Similarly, this one is also there at different places. Also, it is showing them there. So Bangladesh is susceptible for heat waves. Okay. Model prediction, this is that more risk related to the heat waves in the upcoming period. coverage area of heat wave is also projected to increase. That means in the upcoming future there is no chance of leaving any area or with hardly any area without having good coverage of the heat wave condition. And heat wave may become more crucial by 2030 and afterwards also. And early warning of heat wave may therefore be enhanced. And study on the impact of heat wave is also prime requirement is there. So thank you, sir. I will have some other comments. I will not have that in this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manan. A very detailed study. And I am happy not only the Bangladesh, but all countries in South Asia are carrying out a detailed in-depth analysis of the heat waves. They are also attempting to validate heat indices in their. What is really required is the impact-based warnings, which now we are going to talk at the next level. First level, of course, is the early warning system related to human health, and for which health data is very important to come out with threshold. See, each country and even within the country, there are so much of variation, so that there cannot be uniform thresholds of warnings. This has been observed. So we have to use our forecast data along with the health data, and next level will be the impact in various sectors, the agriculture, water, energy, health, of course, is there. So all these will have different thresholds in different temperatures. So gradually we have to, because this is what the heat wave with increasing frequency, intensity, duration is going to make impact not only on the human health, but also social, economic, ecological, biodiversity. So the meteorological community has to expand its area of work. I work with the various sector specialists jointly to work out impact-based warnings. And IMED has made a beginning, so I'm sure this could be, we can have a training program how to develop the impact-based warning for our neighboring countries of the South Asia. So with these, since we have run short of time, we may not have a question answer session or way forward now. We can combine with the final concluding session, both for the early warnings and the heat wave management, subject to the availability of time. So once again, I thank all speakers. I'm sure these are going to be a starting point, as Dr. Jyoti Parikh has brought out, that this particular webinar should be launched for the work together wherever the areas are required, capacity building, training programs, and implementation by the Met agencies. So we will come out with the recommendations and share with all our partners. Thank you. Over to you, Neha.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to session 2 on heat action plans in South Asia. I welcome Mr. Rohit Magotra, Deputy Director of IRADE, to lead this session's presentations. He will be joined by esteemed panelists, including Mr. Sardar Shafiqul Alam, Consultant and Trainer of Trainers for LGET, Government of Bangladesh, Ms. Aarti Nain, Advisor for Urban Cooling and Heat Risk Mitigation, United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, Ms. Devika Sishir Panse, Consultant, South Asia Region Climate Change and Disaster Risk Management, the World Bank, and Ms. Aditi Kapoor, former Technical Advisor, Red Cross Red Crescent Climate Center, and co-founder, Alternative Futures. Rohit, sir, you can take over.
Yeah, sorry, I think, yeah. Just a second, give me a second. Yeah, thank you, Neha, and thank you, Yagi sir, for chairing this session 1 and setting the context. I think it's a very enriching session to know about the kind of efforts and initiatives which have been taken by the participating South Asian countries in this particular webinar. So I think if I look back in the way back in 2021, we looked at how heat action plans have been evolved in South Asian region through a similar webinar way back in 2021. the kind of progress which we are able to observe during the session 1 and getting updated on the work which has been done with respect to the early warning system. I think that's really commendable, and I thank SAMA for particularly organizing the partner countries together in sharing the kind of developments which have happened. So, as rightly said, that early warning systems is one of the most critical component of any successful heat action plan. So, this session is particularly talk about that what kind of heat action plans and the frameworks which have been evolved, particularly looking at the South Asia, and why there is a need for such heat action plan. I think that's an important question which policymakers want to know, that why so much stress on developing such heat action plans now, given that we are in a region which is affected by heat waves for so long. So why there is a need to do so? So I'll just briefly set the context with talking about the heat action plans. But before that, to many who don't know much about IRADE, so Integrated Research and Action is a 20-year-old think tank which is working on action research and policy analysis on several issues which range from climate change, energy, sustainable development, agriculture and food security, and poverty alleviation and gender. We have an Asia Center for Sustainable Development, where we are looking into the issues related to SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, energy and climate, which are very critical for achieving the SDGs. So this Asia Center is very actively working in the Asian region, looking at the development policy and cooperation frameworks in the region. With respect to the heat action, I think our work is being a center of excellence of Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs on climate change and vulnerability. So we started much early in looking into the climate change and cities aspects way back in 2012, where we evolved the methodologies for vulnerability assessments and later engaged on developing climate resilience frameworks and the action plans. This work particularly started on heat with support from International Development Research Center, where we looked into how do we understand and assess the impacts of heat, particularly on livelihoods, productivity, and health in Indian cities, and how do we engage with the municipal corporations, particularly cities, to develop climate adaptive heat action plans. So we worked with 3 cities, Rajkot, Bhubaneswar, and Delhi, working with the local municipal corporations, and also engaging with the IMD, NDMA, and other partner agencies, which included Indian Institute of Public Health, Gandhinagar, and Indian Institute of Public Health, Bhubaneswar. We looked into, we did a tremendous amount of research with respect to understanding what kind of impacts heat has on the people, particularly on the health, livelihoods, and the productivity. What kind of a capacity building gaps exist within the municipal corporation and the associated departments which are responsible for implementation of the heat action plans, particularly the medical community. And most critical one, how do we bring the evidence for the climate change and the rising temperatures in the cities, and what are the factors which are driving this vulnerability? So I think this was a great learning experience in actually unfolding that why cities are important for addressing the heat adaptation for the future. And that's wherein we worked out a framework to develop a climate adaptive heat action plans. And the very first exercise which was initiated as a part of this work was to review the existing heat action work in the South Asia, so which has learnings which I will just briefly talk about later. But coming to SAHHIN, so SAHHIN was set up in 2022 with which was founded with support from the national government players, which includes Indian Meteorological Department, NDMA, IIPH, Indian Institute of Public Health, NRDC, and we have been recognized as a complementary node of Global Heat Health Information Network. And through this initiative, we are bringing in scientists, practitioners, policymakers together to deliberate and look at the possibilities of highlighting and working together on the issues which will strengthen the heat adaptation in South Asia. And we have been fairly successful in putting these putting the technical the inputs for the governments, and also looking at the issues and the new research which are happening and disseminating the same. Many of you would know about the SAHHIN news mailer, which is a fortnightly news mailer which briefs you about the issues related to the heat in the region. I think this is nothing new. I think this has been iterated earlier by several of my fellow colleagues, and also the country presentations, that we are living in a world which is heating much faster, and each year is a new challenge in terms of a new data on number of heat waves. But as Professor Tyagi talked about, it's not about land and air. It's not about land surface temperature or the ambient air temperatures, but our oceans are also warming much faster. And given that the kind of geography we are living, so we are the most vulnerable region. It's not like we are among, but we are the most vulnerable region to the impacts of the heat waves. And looking at Myanmar, Bangladesh, Eastern India this year, I think we really need to gear up our efforts to have mechanisms which enhance the preparedness for heat waves. And one big concern with respect, when we look at the climate change, earlier we are talking about how we are looking at our heat thresholds. So the concerning part is related to the wet bulb global temperatures, where we are looking that there would be a high rise in the heat index, which is looking at the combination of the humidity and the temperature, and our coastal areas are going to be severely affected. And we have seen such kind of a wet bulb days which are being projected now, very soon in several parts of South Asia, and some parts of South Asia are already reporting. Somebody talked about that. What are the impacts of the heat wave? So I think there are several. Other than the human health, we have heat waves of Moscow, which killed like 55,736 people, just a counted record of the people. So the heat has a capacity to kill so many people in one go, and this is a big data in terms of how heat can actually lead to a high mortality. And it's not just like developing countries which could face the impacts. When we are looking at European heat wave of 2003, which actually has a reported death toll of around 70,000 people. And it's not so the severity of such events and the impacts it has on the human health and human life is tremendous. So India itself has Ahmedabad heat event deaths, which leads to a trigger of expediting the need for heat action plans. Karachi, as it was presented in the earlier case, that we had several people being killed by heat waves in a short period of time. And Karachi, we had like in just 3 days, we have like 65 people dying because of the heat wave that's reported. And several of our parts in the region, they are one of the hottest parts in the world, given that just like Jakarta, there are several other places which actually are part of on the heat map of the world. And this is a classic case of when one village was actually, on the fire, because the deviation of the temperature was to a level of 24 degrees centigrade. So due to the heat dome. So these events, we can't rule out that, this is not going to happen. And there is an increasing evidence on these events and the way it is impacting the whole world. And not talking about the human impacts, but also about the global warming, the sea warming, which is killing the sea life. So it's affecting the ecosystems, it's killing, and it's not just killing them, but also affecting the livelihoods of the people who are dependent on this. Be it a fish, be it oysters, And that's the worry, because it's not just humans, it's the ecosystems, it's the dangers of impacting the livelihoods of the people, which has happened in Turkey is one example of the mango yield. And what I see are projects that with 1 degree rise in temperature, we have yields of our key agriculture crops will decline by 3 to 7%, and that has happened already. And lost GDP, which is a major. So I think it's not just one count on the human health. What it's the impacts are the impacts are much beyond the human health, and it can actually lead the rising temperatures can lead to droughts. So prepare for droughts, water supply, the agriculture, the labor. So it's a huge impact on the economy. And this year is briefed earlier that the way the temperatures are breaking all the previous records. So it's very tough, particularly in the when we look at such scenario in the eastern part of South Asia. I won't talk much. Let's come to the key point of heat action plan. What are these heat action plans? So heat action plans actually they actually set up the framework of what kind of implementation coordination mechanisms can be set up at level of national level, state level, district level, or even at the city level. So that how do we respond to the heat? So it brings together these elements of implementation, coordination, and the evaluation of the heat waves. And where the key components is the early warning and the coordination mechanisms for emergency response system. And right now, most of it's around heat and health, actually, how it is impacting the health and how our preparedness could enhance. So particularly in the past, most of these heat action plans are focused on heat health emergency response mechanisms or systems. No one definition for the heat. I think that's what we heard. So it's a relative term, and there are different criteria which are being used or in different parts of the world and in the South Asia to define heat waves. So when a country or when a state is announcing an heat waves conditions, there are different kind of alerts mechanisms, early warning mechanisms, which are being issued, basis which what kind of action should be taken, and who will take that action, how that action will be taken, particularly looking at the roles and responsibilities of the people and how this early warning will flow. I think these are the key elements of a heat action plan. So when we look at history of heat action plan, not globally, looking in the South Asia, I think one of the first initiative was taken in India by state of Odisha, a very proactive state when it comes to heat and also highly impacted state. And it developed the framework and for a first state level heat action plan in the country. And further, there was a comprehensive document of Bangladesh Climate Change Strategy and Action Plan, which has a major component of the heat action plan as a component of the climate action plan. And thereby, Ahmedabad, the trigger of deaths due to the heat, it led to the first city level heat action plan. And very proactively, the National Disaster Management Authority, India, they set up the guidelines, and these guidelines have actually led to a lot of action of developing and the heat action plans in the country. And these guidelines were further reviewed and developed heat action plan. And we also see Male developing a heat action plan in 2017, Maldives, Male city in Maldives. And then, there is further history of evolution of the heat wave plans. And in recent 3 to 4 years, there's a lot of action with respect to developing these heat action plans at various levels, state levels, and city level, district level, city level. So a lot of action has been happening now in India, mostly we have observed on developing such heat action plans. And these heat action plans have actually led to decrease in the mortality also. If you look at India, the geography of heat waves has increased from 9 states in 2015 to 2019. So this is based on the data of IMD and the NDMA. While the number of heat wave days has increased, and there is a subsequent increase in number of heat days in the last 4 years, 3 years as well. So what we see is that given that the rise, both frequency, intensity, increase in the geography of the heat waves, these action plans are very critical to minimize the impacts, the negative impacts of the heat waves. So this is a brief update of what is happening over the heat action plan in South Asia. So we have 21 states out of 23 states which are affected by heat waves in the country, which have heat action plans. 200 plus districts which have developed the heat action plans, and 20 plus cities in India which have developed the heat action plans or various stages of implementation as well. When it comes to the city level heat action plan, because a lot of heat deaths are happening in the cities, so we have seen a lot of action. Particularly Karachi was the only city in South Asia other than Indian cities which had developed this heat action plan. And further we have Malé, which developed this in, and Colombo. Recently we have an engagement with the Colombo Municipal Council where we have developed a draft for heat action plan and also organized capacity building training around. And same is with Dhaka, and recently which developed emergency action protocol, and Rajshahi, which we worked with ICAD, a think tank based in Bangladesh, which is also going to be briefed by Mr. Alam in when he speaks about the Bangladesh and heat action plan in Bangladesh. So what we observed is that these existing action plan, though it's a very elaborate framework, but we didn't see that the kind of action which is required in the heat wave, that is devoid of focusing on spatial vulnerability in terms of looking at heat islands, where these heat islands, where are these vulnerable groups are. So and none of them particularly looked at the climate adaptiveness feature of heat action plans. So I think that is where we identified these gaps and built on a framework for developing climate adaptive, gender sensitive, and especially targeted heat action plan on vulnerable communities. So I think that is one contribution we had on this narrative of heat action plan, which should be developed not just as the actions which are required now, but looking at the situation of the future. So a lot of benefits which are obviously very significant via heat action plans. It reduces economic losses, it leads to better preparedness, and it provides localized solutions for protecting the urban poor and women and several such vulnerable groups. And obviously the foremost reason which is being these action plans are important, that it actually reduces, it has a potential to reduce the mortality as well as the mortality related to the heat. So this is the framework which we have evolved of engaging with around 6 cities and with inputs from several other examples of heat action plans, at how a heat action plan should be developed. Because a key question comes is that on what basis we should develop key action plans. So recently we have documented and developed a training manual and a standard operating protocol for heat action plan, which we'd be happy to share with you. And thereby we identified what are the key components when we should look at developing a heat action plan, because so many geographies in South Asia still don't have these heat action plans. So how do we enhance the future preparedness through these heat action plans? So these are the steps which I'm going to briefly talk about. But the first step is we have to know our area, the geography. We have to understand that what are the social demographic features, whether it's urbanizing or not, what is the past mortality or the morbidity of the geography for which we are working. This will help us to understand what are the key economic what is the key economic opportunities which people have in the cities, what is the population of old people, what kind of population we have of vulnerable groups. So it gives me a first-hand view of the geography, and that's what needs to be collated first. And then we have climate is very important and critical component, so for which we can look at the climatology information which is available for last 10 to 30 years, and also look at what kind of changes which have happened in this particular geography over the last 3 years, which the data which is available from the meteorological department. The another step is it's important to identify where this heat is impacting more than the other part of the city, as the temperatures are not uniform within the cities. There are urban heat islands, so it's important to identify, to a very targeted approach, and also evolve the mitigation and preparedness strategies around that. Further, the most critical and important part is to identify my vulnerability. Where the vulnerable groups are staying, which are the vulnerable areas. So that baseline is very critical for a targeted action, which are identification of low-income pockets, identifying the factories where people are living in the conditions where the urban infrastructure services are poor, migrant population. Going to the next steps, it's important to identify the heat thresholds, like, at what temperature the heat starts impacting the people, both in terms of mortality and the morbidity, and there are methodologies to do that. Further, it's important to understand which are the sectors and how heat is impacting the geography, the people, and this is a critical component to devise the preparedness or the mitigation strategy. So there are methodologies which we have documented to and could be then further used for developing heat action plans. Now, looking at how this heat action plan, now understanding the context and what kind of thresholds exist for the city, what kind of vulnerable groups are there. It's important to map the stakeholders who are important from the point of view of designing and implementation of this heat action plan. So where there's a mapping exercise and also capacity building. And the critical part is also to identify what kind of adaptation strategies. So there is a role and responsibility map for various departments, what to do in what context. And a very important part is that heat communication, how heat early warning is communicated, how the public health campaigns have been done, and how do we monitor the impact. So I think this is one broad framework which has been evolved and which looks into the components of making the plans climate adaptive, gender sensitive, and looking into not just health needs, but also the sectoral strategies for mitigating the impacts. And there are some plans which have been evolved in these states. Rajkot, Surat are some good examples for looking at these plans. So I will just briefly run through that, how does it look like, because we're looking at what kind of population rates. This is understanding your city or the areas, understanding the wards, slum pockets. So it's important to understand, that the geography for which I'm working, I understand it, I identify further, looking at the climatology, how the temperatures are rising, as we found that in cities, we found that there is a rise of around 1 to 1.5 degrees of temperature during the summer season over the year. So, which is significant when we're looking at the rising heat, how the humidity is varying. So these actually set the base or the foundation to understand that, we need to take concrete efforts, given that the heat is building and the climate is impacting the rise in terms of heat waves. Urban highland mapping, as I said, that certain pockets are more hotter. It's because of geography, it's because of the land use patterns, it's because of the energy consumption and the exhaust which are coming. So we have identified that these are the areas which are important from the point of view of addressing the heat. Should prioritize these areas rather than having one single jacket approach for addressing the heat. So further, the idea is that we identify the spatial vulnerability, where these wards are, where these localities are, and also looking at the future projections, given that rising temperatures, which are the particular locations which are likely to become hotter. So, these are the scenarios which can be built for preparedness for the future in terms of mitigation as well. As I said, the vulnerability mapping, it should include the vulnerable areas and the vulnerable groups. It's important to identify them so that our approach is very targeted approach. So there is a methodology which is on the lines to identify how do you identify vulnerability within the area, looking at several factors, access to infrastructure services, access to health centers, electricity is very important, water, the housing is becoming very critical now, given that rising indoor heat is affecting much more the residents, even compared to the outdoor people who are exposed. So that is where we identify these maps that, where what kind of vulnerability is index city has, and what kind of factors are actually leading to the vulnerability. It won't be one kind of issue which may be rising to the vulnerability. In some cases, it's access to water. Some cases, it could be access to electricity or the combination of both, access to the health center. So there are definite methodologies which we have documented to identify these which identify the step-by-step process to develop a heat action plan in terms of identifying the thresholds, how do we engage with the stakeholders, and what are the strategies, what kind of strategies, who will do that, what are the actions which should be taken before the summer period, during, and the post. So how do we communicate this to people, the early warning and the preparedness mechanisms? So engagement with the health departments, engagement with the transport department, setting up such measures which will reduce the vulnerability, particularly in the vulnerable group, advisories. So these are some ways. To summarize that, heat action plans has actually now gained significant traction within the South Asia, and we see it's something which is very important that we be prepared for the future. And climate is something which we have observed is changing, and given that there is a rise in cities now, so more and more such so the number of cases which are being reported at cities are increasing. So we see that there is a more targeted and focused approach on addressing the preparedness as well as looking at the mitigation strategies. So looking at the commonalities within the South Asia, I think these we need to have more such plans which are looking at being climate adaptive and the vulnerable. The template is ready, so I think this could be easily adopted and shared for developing a future which is based on the heat action plans which are climate adaptive and focused on the vulnerable communities. So that's all for the right now. So these are collaborators and partners which have been part of developing these action plans and supporting us in several such initiatives related to heat in the South Asia. Thank you so much. So I'll stop here. So I think moving forward, I am requesting the panelists to briefly talk about the key issues with respect to heat and in South Asia, and what kind of efforts and initiatives have been taken with respect to their agencies. And so I am requesting first Dr. Alam, who has been a focal point for supporting the development of Rajshahi Heat Action Plan in Bangladesh. So this was a collaborative work which IRADE took it with ICAD in Bangladesh. And so I'm requesting
Excuse me,
Dr.
sir.
Alam.
Hello, sir. Miss Aditi has to leave early, so if we can put her a bit earlier.
Aditi, can we just do this after Dr. Alam?
I don't know how long he's going to take, but I need to leave at 5. So
Yeah, I think we will finish before that. Yeah,
okay,
thanks.
okay, thanks.
Dr. Alam, can you please quickly?
Thank you, Rohit. Good. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me to join with you as a panelist. I was lucky to work with you to learn so much thing about the heat action plan and conducting a study with you while I was working with the International Center for Climate Change and Development. Now I am a consultant working for developing TOT manual for LGD for three sectors: rural infrastructure, urban infrastructure, and water infrastructure. But I will share my experience, what I have done in Rajshahi, working with you as a partner of IRADE while I was in IRADE. And I know that in brief, we have learned about the temperature increase situation, heat wave situation in Bangladesh from the Dr. Abdul Mannan. He nicely present the country context. So I am not going to mention about this, but I like to focus on the what we have done in the Rajshahi city and why did we select the Rajshahi city. At that time, we thought the Rajshahi city was the most worstly affected by the heat wave, but recently we learned that the other cities like the Jashore, Khulna, Chuadanga are also the worstly affected. Then when we select the Rajshahi city, we have prepared the fact sheet on the city. And the fact sheet include the city location, demography, economic factor, population, and infrastructure service. Infrastructure service means water supply, housing, sanitation, health service facilities, etc. Health service facilities also include the hospital, clinic, demographic, diagnostic center, and others. And to know the exact current situation of the city during the heat stage, how they can get the service from there. And the climate change condition, we have done the analysis of previous climatic data, and also they make some projection on the maximum temperature, average minimum temperature, average rainfall, humidity. These are things we have analyzed to understand the future scenario of the climate on the city. And we got the data from the BMDA, and we analyzed the data. And in our country, we have mentioned we have learned from the Abdul Mannan that the heat stress in the country earlier we don't have the heat stress impact except the 1951. Then we have the heat wave, and our national policy also mentioned the heat wave, not the heat stress. But last 2 years, since 2023 to 24, we are learning the heat stress impact in Bangladesh, the moderate to severe. These are the new phenomena we are observing in our country. But in Rajshahi cities, while we work in the Rajshahi city, we have followed the different methods for the study. We have after the completion of the fact sheet, we have conducted we have identified the hotspot location, the heat thermal location in the city level. We have collected the world map and select from the world map, and we have identified the most vulnerable group, the slum dwellers, and we select some of the slum for conducting the household survey. And we conducted the in-depth interview with the city level stakeholders, mostly on the city development and city authority level stakeholders, and also the NGOs. And after the household survey data analysis and conducting the stakeholder interview findings, then we have developed the partnership with agreement with the city level authority to develop a heat action plan. And then we engage them in a consultation workshop. We call the stakeholder consultation workshop. And that was during the COVID situation, we had to organize the online workshop, not the physical workshop. But I went there. I talked to the city level different officials and NGOs officials, and then after that we could manage the partnership, build the partnership with the city authority of Rajshahi for the project. Then after the workshop, we have published a press list on the findings of the workshop, and we also contribute to analyze the data with the IRADE, and we provide all the data, and IRADE finally draft a training manual. We contribute to the training manual for aligning with the Bangladesh context. Then we transcribe the training manual in Bangla so that the training manual can share with the government officials and city authorities and other service providers so that they can build their capacity for the heat action plan. these are the activities we have done in our city. But when I conducted the city, we have learned something, some I think, but I cannot mention all this. I will share with you some key learning about the city. The four major sectors we have learned, the four major sectors impacted by heat stress, namely the water supply, health, biodiversity, and solid waste management in the Rajshahi city. It was outly affected with during the heat wave at that time, but now we can see that during heat stress it will be more. And the water supply means with increasing temperature, the water resources in the city will be under great stress, leading to health impact, and impacts on economy depend on water sources, also the agriculture. And the health, due to sudden climate impacts of increasing temperature, the health system of city may fail. Biodiversity, that means the increasing temperature can exacerbate habitat loss in the urbanization that will reduce urban biodiversity. And also the solid waste management, that increasing temperature may cause waste dump decomposition in open dumping, creating health hazards. Then the extreme heat had prevented day laborers activity, like the rickshaw puller, van puller, construction worker, mason man, street vendor from stepping outdoors during daytime, thus largely affecting their livelihoods. We found the Rajshahi Medical College Hospital showed their number of patients doubling from suffering from the diarrhea, jaundice, and viral fever, and increase the attack heat-related diseases like high blood pressure and sunstroke during the month of June in that city. Also, increase the domestic animal suffering from the diarrhea, stroke, and surveillance density. These are the findings we have learned from the stakeholder and also from the aligned with the literature review. But major findings is that there was no heat action plan or heat management plan in Rajshahi, as the city has not yet defined the heat wave and formally address it. Measures are not exclusively taken addressing heat stress. I found this information during while we are working in the city. It was in 2001 to 2002. However, some measures such as mass plantation have been undertaken to address the greenhouse gas emission and rising temperature in the city. The city has a greenery development activity through different projects, and the city corporation implemented several projects like the street solar street lighting to reduce the emission, and efficient management of waste and garbage, and effort to reduce the air pollution. The city has different activities instead of calling the heat action plan, but they have some activity to make better environment management. The city known as the green city in the country, cleanest city in the country. We have found these are action the city level have taken during our study, and after this,
sir, I'll stop you right now here. But given that we are actually running out of the time and Dr. Aditi has to leave, so kindly conclude the minutes.
Okay. In conclusion and recommendation, I think that the Rajshahi city face frequent heat wave, and there has been an increase in its annual maximum and minimum temperature. The extreme heat affects the livelihood, productivity, income levels, outdoor workers, and there has also been rise the heat stress associated morbidity and mortality during the weather. The stronger effects found in the cities among the elder and children and women. To develop the city preparedness to manage the cope with the heat waves, I think we need to prepare thermal hotspot mapping, like the location specific, vulnerability mapping, and the capacity building, develop mitigation and adaptation strategy, and gender inclusive framework for heat action plan, and provide training for capacity and disseminate heat action plan messages among the stakeholders and community, and implementation and monitoring the evaluation of heat action plan. And this should not be only the city level, it should be at the national level and also the South Asian regional level. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think you have shared a lot about of adopting the process also of developing a climate adaptive heat action plan. And these documents on developing the heat action plan and the training manuals for the municipalities are also available in the Bangla language, and they are readily available on our website also. So I think we need to disseminate further this, Dr. Alam, with more partners and cities in South in Bangladesh, and also engage in some capacity building initiatives so that people are able to adapt them. So thank you so much. So I'm sorry, Dr. Aditi, you have to wait, but if you could just kindly join.
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm just wondering whether I could just give people a little chance, a little breather, and show a 2-minute film that we had spoken about.
Yeah, sure.
Should I share screen and show it?
Yes, please. Yes, please. You can.
Okay, so it's just a 2-minute film because the task that I have been given was to show what is being done on the ground. So I thought I'll just come in with some of the, okay, let me see if I can I share my screen?
Yes, you can.
Why does it say that I have to? Okay. So I think there's something in my I think there's something in my settings which is not allowing me to do it. Can I just send you the link and you can do it?
Yeah, sure.
I'll just send you the link again.
Yeah, in the meantime, you can just talk about the initiative, please.
Yes. Okay. So it's anyway, people will also have it once I send it. So it's in the chat. I think I've sent it to everyone.
You can do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if somebody, yeah, it's there. Can we hear it, please? Sound? Oh, okay. I think mine is playing, if I'm not mistaken.
ये बात सभी को पता हो। हमने बोला पानी ज्यादा सर को धक्के रखो कपड़े से और 12 से 3 बजे तक विश्राम करो। हाँ, तो ये बताओ कि ये और किसी को जाके बताओगे चीजें? ये बताएंगे, हम अपने यूज करेंगे भाई साहब इससे। हाँ, किसको बताओगे जाके? हम अपने साथियों को बताएंगे। मैडम पानी तो पिएंगे, शरबत पिएंगे, नींबू पानी, नींबू लेवल।
Okay. So just to say that this was one of the flash mobs that was done by the Indian Red Cross in various markets, at the airport where they were invited, also in the cargo area where there are a lot of people who are working in the heat, when the passengers were coming in Connaught Place, which is a central park where a lot of people try to go find shades. So the whole idea is that one of the first things that, is required with early warning and early action is awareness. And the only way that that awareness comes is if it goes public. So for instance, even in Dhaka, the Red Crescent had worked with the BBC Media Action and with the young people, also using a young youth icon to see that they could reach out with some messages, especially in the local language, because people know that it's hot. But what does that mean in terms of impact? What does that mean in terms of all the vulnerable groups and vulnerabilities that we are talking about? Who's more vulnerable? So I think those kind of things come only when there's awareness. So that's one of the things that's critical. Of course, as has been said earlier, the early warning systems are quite robust in South Asia, but the last mile connectivity, that is something that is missing. So in action, that's one of the things that we've been trying to do with all the action organizations that I've been working with, is to see that we can get that last mile connectivity. So that's one of the things that's happening. The other thing is about data. When we talk about differential vulnerabilities, these differential vulnerabilities can be intra-city, like you talked about Rajkot. There's another action that happened in Surat where they looked at the data from 3 different areas in Surat and found that, maybe the home-based workers cannot leave work during the hot hours because they are paid day wages, right? Or piecemeal wages. So these are groups that require special cooling of the houses, for instance, which is small infrastructure. It's not big infrastructure. So, and these are houses that are already made. So those are kind of areas, again, the last mile connectivity, preparedness, what is it that we can do? So it can be intra-city, it can be intergenerational. We know about the children and the elders being more vulnerable. It can also be intra-generational. So intra-generational, for instance, we know that lactating women, not many people know that, but lactating women need more water. Pregnant women are especially susceptible to malaria, and that causes more morbidity and mortality in infants. Also, the fact that menstrual hygiene. So, there are intra-generational problems also. Within the same generation, depending on where you are located, it also makes a difference. Pollution. So we know that, the ground level ozone, for instance, increases when there are heat waves, and that impacts certain people more. What is it that we can do about that? So I think those are kind of data about differential vulnerabilities that are essential in early action. We've not got to that stage. So we have our EAT action plans, but we've not got to a stage where we have a vulnerability framework where we're working with local wards and local resident welfare associations and local grassroots organizations to collect this data. We collect a lot of data, but we are not collecting this differential data. So I think that is something that's extremely critical. The third point I wanted to make really was what is called forecast-based financing. So forecast-based financing essentially is that once you have a forecast that something is going to happen, you put finance in preventing it, right? So whatever anticipatory action you have to take, it needs to be funded. Now, usually this is done in terms of the what are called rapid onset disasters like floods, right? Or cyclones. We've got the shelters, etc. But in the slow onset disasters, of which heat is one of the things, and drought is a similar disaster, we don't really plan for that. So that is again something that happened, for instance, in Hanoi, in Vietnam, and then it was carried on in other organizations, in other parts of the country. Essentially, what they did was that they started with awareness, and then they built capacities of local people, of course, to understand what is heat, who's going to be more affected, etc. All that vulnerability mapping that you very eloquently spoke about, Rohit. And then they said, okay, So now what do we need? We need water, right? We need a safe space for people. We need to maybe retrofit houses. So these are the things that they started doing. So to give you one example, they had what they called were cooling centers. Now in cooling centers, the temperature was about 7 degrees centigrade lower than outside. And this was something that was frequented by, so, for 4 days when there was heat, data that was collected, I'm telling you about one of those 4 days when there was heat, about 500 people accessed the cooling centers every day. Most of them were street vendors who frequented it. The next group of people who came really were motorcyclists, interestingly enough. And then about 15% of them were day laborers. So I think a lot of the day laborers, probably because, the contractors also feel that, okay, in the afternoon hours, maybe you can take off and then work late evening. So, those kind of arrangements are there. So maybe that's why, they were the group which accessed it least. But interestingly, motorcyclists and a lot of cities, the young people, the kind of middle-aged people, they are the ones who are really riding the motorcyclists, the two-wheelers. So they were the ones who accessed it. The third kind of thing that I really wanted to, or the fourth kind of thing that I really wanted to refer to was local action. So local action is something that, people have been doing all around, like cool roofs is something that we listen about. But let me also share with you the fact that cool roofs are fine. But if cool roofs are also storage spaces for people, then the cool roofs don't work. If they're going to, store their maybe their assets, their cycles, or use it as a warehouse, then the cool roofs are not going to reflect the sun. So that is something that we also have to look at. But kitchen gardens, spray parks, for instance, which we have talked about in Cape Town, Europe and Australia, for instance, are using telephone calls. So if resident welfare associations, etc., can be geared up to talk to, especially say the elderly who are staying alone, or households that have little children. So I think those are kind of very practical things that also some of the Red Cross, Red Crescent societies are doing in various places. Two more points I wanted to make. One that we are not doing is looking at infrastructure development from a point of view of heat. We are looking at it now from the point of view of cyclones and floods, but again, rapid onset. We are not looking at it from the heat point of view. And you've all of the presentations have very specifically said that this part of the world is going to really be one of the worst affected. So for instance, markets. When markets are developed, do we have shaded verandas where the consumers can come? Heat reflective road surfaces, we still don't have technologies for that. Shades along the pedestrian ways. Emergency AC places. Let me come back to the flash mob, for instance. During the discussions, because all the Red Cross volunteers who did the flash mob were responders, they were discussing amongst themselves that, okay, if somebody gets a heat stroke, what do we do? Where do we take that person? Which is the closest, coolest pass that we can get? And then they discussed it amongst themselves and said, maybe the ATM. But if the ATM is going to be a hole in the wall, then that doesn't suffice. But thankfully, still in our cities, it's still a cubicle which is air conditioned. And so that could be one of the options. So I think when the local governments are building the local infrastructure, it's extremely important to also know how it can be used in more multiple ways. It could be schools, maybe hospitals can have something outside, or whatever infrastructure we are building. But I think some cooling spaces is something that's very, really required. Last point that I wanted to make was that despite these vulnerability assessments that several of the organizations are doing, mapping them, there are some populations that are still completely neglected. For instance, domestic workers. There's no place that they can go, no place at all. Gate guards, night watchmen. The night temperatures, as you know, are going to be higher than what they used to be. So I think there are some populations that are unmapped. So those also need to be catered to when we're looking at some of the actions. But so far, we are not really looking at those. None of the organizations that I know are actually looking at these neglected populations. So I would just like to stop there.
Thank you so much. I think the insights which you have provided are very useful for the existing heat action plans, and also, the future roadmap, the map, when we're looking at what kind of a mitigation actions are required, what are the mitigation strategies. And you're so right in saying that, while we are building our infrastructure, it's so much important to have a planning which is a heat resilient infrastructures. And this is something which is a required part of both planning and budgeting process. And as heat is a silent disaster, so I think very useful insights. And another important point is the heat communication. We have early warning systems. How do we communicate it to the last mile and to the people who are most affected? So thank you so much for joining us and sharing this great experience from your work. So moving on, some answers. I think we have an expert from UNEP, which Ms. Aarti Nain, and she's a cooling sector expert, and I'm sure she's going to give you some kind of a flavor of what kind of a solutions are there or being thought through when we are looking at cooling action plans. Thank you. Over to you, Aarti.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mehta. Before I begin, I'll just give you a background of where I'm coming from. So we are working with institutions such as National Institute of Urban Affairs and state governments of Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, and some other states on how to apply heat resilience in urban planning and buildings both. And there are several measures which we so one is heat resilient buildings, to which Dr. Iti Kapoor also referred to how can they be resilient, but more in terms of the basic design and construction materials that we use. For example, reflective roofs. Those are especially useful for vulnerable communities and those from poorer economic backgrounds because they are slightly cost-effective solution. So this is at the building level, and then we are looking at the planning side of the city planning and the neighborhood planning, where the possibilities are of increasing the percentage of both distributed and concentrated green cover. Also looking at the way we are designing our urban spaces in terms of, are the streets well ventilated and shaded? Are the open spaces themselves, are they well ventilated and shaded? And shading could both be with trees and shading devices and shelters. And also, most importantly, in case of city redevelopment or virgin development, is using mixed land use planning as a means of mitigating urban heat islands and otherwise heat waves, transit-oriented development and all of these. And the method to go about it is to look at the regulations such as master plans, local area plans, development control norms, and building bylaws. So for example, in building bylaws, it is much easier to integrate strategies like shading devices for buildings, or reflective paints on the surfaces, or thermal insulation to reduce heat gain inside buildings. It has been done before. I'm not talking about some. It's just that we have never looked at it from the perspective of heat wave resilience. And these are all long-term measures. So that is something that is very much possible even through heat action plans. And in fact, NDMA's heat action guidelines does recommend that cities and states should start looking at these guidelines, whether it is through adoption of energy codes or standalone guidelines for cooling buildings and making heat resilient buildings. In the urban planning space, it's very critical to first do the urban heat island analysis and then identify not just the vulnerable hotspots in terms of the population, but also your physical and geographical locations, which are hotspots, which are higher temperatures, which generally you would know tend to be one where you have a lot of hard cover. The urban morphology is, is composed of very hard surfaces which absorb heat and then re-radiate at night, which leads to greater heat at night. And also there's a lot of anthropogenic waste heat, both from human activity like tailpipe emissions from vehicles. So it's very critical in master planning to look at these, and heat action plans can again recommend these, and that cities and states should undertake urban heat island assessments, and then use master plans, one, to increase the green cover and manage that green cover, look at redevelopment of water bodies, think of looking at urban spaces and how they can be redesigned, and also at stormwater management system, which a lot of people don't look at, but it's kind of a very strange link. But green stormwater management systems could actually help in mitigating heat, both during heat waves and otherwise. Green roofs is also one possible method through which the local temperatures can be reduced. And through all of it, it's very important to bring in digital technologies as well. In certain cities, not so much in South Asia and Southeast Asia, but in the more developed part of the world, and which we can do because India is becoming a fairly advanced economy and a country, as is use apps and websites to inform people which are the cool sites, which are basically these green spaces, water bodies in the city where one can go and take shelter during heat waves and any other periods of extreme heat. So these are the methods, which things that we are looking at in integrating in heat action plans, and trying to educate cities and support cities in adopting such measures in their heat action.
Thank you so much. I think these insights are very important for the future when we are looking at the future in terms of when we're looking at planning cities, and we see that the cities which are likely to be the most affected by the impacts of the heat, and how do we safeguard the vulnerable population. And I think there are a lot of learnings which from the UNEP work and the way you have started looking at mapping of the urban heat maps and looking at the structural measures and also non-structural measures engaging on the policy. I think this needs to be carried forward to other South Asian cities, and I think a lot of this should be shared with the member countries in South Asia. So we look forward to engage on those points where we share this experience with the broader communities, particularly in the areas, geographies which are most affected by the heat. Thank you so much. So I'm requesting Ms. Devika, who is working as a consultant for South Asia region, climate change and disaster risk management with the World Bank. So World Bank has been working on looking at the issues with respect to the mitigation of heat for very long in the region. So I'm requesting Devika to share the initiatives and experiences of the World Bank in the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malhotra, and it's really an honor to be a part of this panel alongside very distinguished experts. So thank you, Radhi, for inviting me here. I want to take a step back and talk a little bit about heat action plans. There was a study done very recently that analyzed the effectiveness of the heat action plans in India, and what the findings were that a lot of the heat action plans, as highlighted by Mr. Malhotra before, are not very good at kind of identifying and targeting vulnerable groups. The second thing is that they are insufficiently transparent. They are not very sectoral and target oriented. So what we are looking at the World Bank is to kind of take an integrated approach and how we can bring together various elements of urban heat and active cooling and passive cooling together to kind of take an integrated approach to urban heat and heat mitigation. So I think when we talk about policy planning with respect to heat stress, there are three things that one needs to consider. One is the heat metrics and meteorological services and preparedness that we've talked about extensively in the first session. The second thing is how do we kind of provide thermal comfort in the built environment, that is cities, urban and residential buildings, etc. And the third thing, I think, which is an important pillar, which we cannot ignore anymore, is active cooling solutions that are required to provide thermal comfort in all these sectors. So I think there are very different ways where one can approach this, right? But what is really important is that when we talk about heat action plan, we need to also identify how are these being funded and implemented. So our work primarily has been to kind of take an integrated approach and build in active, passive, as well as urban design solutions, and also look at how we can crowdsource financing for this, right? Because in the end, the implementation largely hinges on how well it is financed. So I think I was also asked to give an example. So, one example which is very interesting of an initiative taken by the commercial sector to integrate passive design measures and strategic design and building insulation is Infosys, which has really taken a lot of effort to reduce the need for active cooling in their campuses, install radiant cooling technology, which consumes a lot lesser energy to provide active cooling to the people. That's, I think, one important initiative that one needs to learn from. And the commercial sector can really look at, scaling these kind of ideas up to really meet their thermal comfort goals. The second thing that I want to highlight is also, while early warning systems are extremely important, and we've discussed that, South Asia is very evolved already when it comes to these, and it has been very interesting to learn about what different countries are doing in the previous session. But it's also very important to kind of build thermal comfort at various levels in residential buildings, commercial buildings, in the MSME sector, and in the built environment as large, and looking at nature-based solutions and district cooling, and think kind of forward to kind of identify strategies that will reduce the need for cooling and meet the growing demand for active cooling in a sustainable manner. And at the same time, it's important to direct these initiatives to the most vulnerable population, and also identify where are the areas such as, affordable housing schemes by the government. Can we integrate thermal comfort parameters in these homes? Because a lot of these people are really bearing the brunt of the power cuts that are being faced due to heat stress, and they are not able to afford the active cooling solutions that we as a middle class and upper middle class people are able to afford. So I think our focus as the World Bank with our mission to, kind of address the most vulnerable population has been to work with the government to target these high risk and vulnerable populations to, provide thermal comfort to them. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. I think these are very rich insights, Devika. I think the World Bank approach in having an integrated approach and approach on the vulnerable community is very critical and important for for this part of the world, but also South Asia. So I think another point which I find is important further, because the buck stops with financing. We talk about heat action plans and model heat action plan, increasing the effectiveness of the same, and what we find is that there are very limited financing mechanisms, and the technical assistance. That is also a suggestion to UNEP, that the technical assistance which is required per se for developing these heat action plans and also implementing strategies, that is what is missing. I think a lot of work is required in terms of financing, setting up the financing mechanisms, and also supporting the technical assistance in terms of the capacity building, which is required to understand the nuances of heat action plans, both from the short-term, medium to long-term perspective, and what could be done. So we need to kind of share these kind of initiatives and also efforts where some innovative financing mechanisms are being established, or how do we further nudge the cities, districts to develop at a kind of an effective heat action plans, which look into the measures which are focused also on both adaptation and the mitigation. So thank you so much. I think we're running out of time, Dr. Das, so I have to request you to kindly summarize and also provide your concluding remarks. But I'd like to thank you all the panelists and all the participants who have stayed with us and who have actually enriched the dialogue. And this is something I would say which is happening at this scale is very important to develop a collective strategy for the action in South Asia. And we look forward to take this learning forward and come back to you, and also see how do we kind of further expedite this action, a climate action, which is particularly focused on the heat action. So thank you, sir. Over to you. Sir, you're muted. You're on mute, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Rohit. Professor Jyoti Parekh, Executive Director of IRADE, ABM Professor Ajit Tyagi, President of SAMA, the representatives of the member countries of SAMA, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second webinar on heat wave early warning system and heat action plans in South Asia, jointly organized by the South Asian Meteorological Association SAMA and the South Asian Heat and Health Information Network SAHHIN. The first one was organized on 6th of June 2021. Today we had very interesting presentations on the heat wave early warning systems and heat action plans in South Asia. As you know, South Asia is one of the most vulnerable countries to the impact of heat waves. There has been a significant rise in the number of heat waves in South Asian region. Several proactive efforts have been taken by the respective governments of the country to enhance the preparedness of efforts for heat wave management in the region. There is a need to collaborate and engage with the stakeholders to expedite heat action in the South Asian region. As you know, there are two aspects, of course. One is the early warning of the heat wave, and second is the heat action plan. I think the heat waves have been occurring for several decades. It is an Earth system science phenomenon. Heat waves can occur due to changes in Earth's ocean atmospheric interaction. I think that the people have somehow also adapted to that. However, in the recent years, we, particularly in the urban areas, have become more aware due to the development of media and communication systems. The heat waves have also become more alarming due to the impacts of climate change and global warming. Regarding the early warning of the heat waves, most of the countries, including India Meteorological Department, IMD, the National Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting, NCMRWF, they provide 10 days forecast of heat index and their probability of occurrences based on the global ensemble model forecasting system. Similarly, other countries also have heat wave early warning systems. People talk about the impacts of climate change due to global warming, marine heat waves, ocean warming, El Nino, IOD, lack of rainfall, high humidity, low humidity, etc., which have impacts on the human comfort indices. But the point is that our present weather and climate models, the NWP models, the ensemble prediction systems, etc., can provide good warnings of the heat waves, including all the existing climate parameters like El Nino, positions of the subtropical anticyclones, jet streams, etc. Many countries also use specialized regional models for forecasting forest fire. We can also provide meteograms containing forecasts of several parameters for different cities and towns. This has been done also by many countries on operational basis. Of course, the researchers have to calculate the accuracy and skill scores of forecasts at local scale and make necessary bias corrections in the forecast. But the most important part is to communicate the warnings to the public with sufficient lead time for taking necessary precautions for safety, mitigation, adaptation, and resilience. I think a lot of work is required in this regard. I mean, I really like the steps which the Red Cross Society has been taking, as presented by Dr. Aditi. We need to create awareness by going to the villages, farmers, school children. We have to form several teams of volunteers to walk and reach to the people for creating awareness among them. Young people nowadays have become so much addicted to making reels and posting on the Facebooks. I think we need to make short reels, animated cartoons about the heat wave warnings, precautions to be taken by the children, by the people, by the district administrators, state government, and the country levels. Today's webinar has been live streamed on the YouTube channel of SAMA. It will be available there in future also for anyone to watch it leisurely later. I would like to thank all the members of IRADE and executive coordination team of SAMA for making this webinar a grand success. Thank you very much, Rohit. Thank you very much, everybody. On to you, Dr. Rohit.
Thank you so much, sir. I think we look forward to engage further with this group and further share the key recommendations which emerge from this workshop, and look forward to engage in the region, as I said, for a broader climate action and collaboration in area of heat resilience, and build this further. So thank you all for joining, and we can close the event now. Thank you all the panelists for your time and inputs. Thank you so much,
Thank you very
sir.
much. Namaskar,
Thank you. Bye.
everybody. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you.
So I think we can stop the recording as well as the YouTube live, right?
Yes, 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 yes.
Rohit?
Sir, he has left.
Okay, fine. Please tell him to speak to me afterwards.
Sure, I will, sir.
We need to prepare some summary of this webinar with some recommendations, okay?
I think, sir, we will start doing that tomorrow only.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well organized. Thank you.
Please
Thank you,
stop
sir.
recording.
Thank you.
I think recording should be stopped now.
I will stop it from here.
Yeah. Thank you.
When we will leave, the YouTube broadcast will be stopped.
Automatically,
So I think, yes. Manjuji, you can maybe stop this yourself or leave the meeting.
Yeah, I think so. Host can stop it. I think it
Host
would be
can
better.
stop it. Yes.